but I don't know what happened there. Next slide, please. Next slide. Then let me just briefly go on. Then why green economy? Why we have to, at this stage, why we have to talk about green economy? Then I have to tell you that because current BAU is not feasible and not sustainable. Why? Because of a resource constraint, energy constraint, and climate constraint, we cannot simply continue the way we are operating our economy as we are doing now. And then developing countries are saying that, is it our responsibility? It is their responsibility, historical. But what I'm emphasizing here is that in spite of the historical responsibility of a developed country, but it is developing country who will suffer most. They are most vulnerable. That's why in spite of their lack of historical responsibility, they have to change the way they can grow. This is what I was emphasizing. So there's an urgent need to change the pattern of growth. And also I would emphasize that this is a strategy to continue economic growth, which is necessary to reduce poverty. So poverty and green economy are very closely linked. Next slide, please. This is to show that why low carbon? Why low carbon? Because already the import burden of many developing countries are already doubling. For example, Korea's burden of importing oil is increased from 8% to 15%, twice, doubled. Many developing countries too. It is going to double and triple. Can they continue to do that? Next slide. They are already suffering more. I don't have time to go on this. You can read it later. Next slide, please. This is about from climate impact. So developing, as you can see, it is developing country, as it was mentioned yesterday by Pachauri as well. It is developing country who are suffering, not developed country. Next slide, please. And the energy and climate crisis, I want to emphasize here that, unfortunately, Asia-Pacific countries are using 3 times more resources per GDP. So there's a huge room for improvement, in spite of the fact that per capita resource consumption still remains low in Asia-Pacific. But unfortunately, Asia-Pacific is leading resource consumption increase. But now I see that I'd like to emphasize here, Japan is actually showing a model of resource efficiency and economic growth. Just for example, a transport system of Japan showing a great example for many other developing countries to learn to improve public transportation. While many developing countries are suffering from traffic congestion wherever you go, whether you go Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, traffic congestion. This traffic congestion is not just a matter of money and technology. You can control the number of cars in your downtown without money and technology. It is a typical example of what you can do even without money and technology. Yeah, next slide, please. Then it is very urgent because we have to shift from a new paradigm. And Dr. Nato may emphasize that we need a transformation. To me, the transformation means shifting from intensive to efficient growth pattern of using resource carbon and energy. That I call as a low carbon green growth. And the ISAP has been promoting the idea of low green growth from 2005. And we have just launched this year, low carbon green growth roadmap, which is this. And you can download it from Google, just to type low carbon green growth roadmap, because I believe that talking about concept is not enough. So we have tried to capture more than 100 case studies and policy options for low carbon green growth. So it has been compiled in our report. So here, I'd like to emphasize that what I mean by low carbon green growth means that investing in solar, wind, renewable energy, which symbolizes efficient way of operating our economy, can generate economic growth and employment. But at the moment, when we invest in solar panel or wind power turbine, we are losing money because the fossil fuel is so cheap. So it is not green economy. Green economy means that when we invest in solar and wind, then we can generate profit. Then it is a green economy. So I don't think at the moment nobody is in a green economy situation, maybe except Denmark is very nearing to that stage. So decoupling, actually low carbon green growth means a decoupling growth from CO2 as well as from resource consumption. So here, can it be applied to developing country? That is a big question. Next slide, please. So our roadmap was about this. So far, I have explained why. Then now I have to explain you how we can do that. Because it requires a fundamental economic system change. Incremental change is not enough and it cannot deliver this kind of green economy. Green economy, I don't think it's the easiest thing. It requires a political leadership commitment. Government has to jumpstart the process. We cannot leave it just to the market. It will never happen by the market automatically. Next slide, please. Then, what I mean by economic system change, I think I'd like to categorize them in two. Number one, the visible structure of our economy. Number two is the invisible structure of our economy. Visible means whatever we can see, buildings, public transportations, the way we design our cities, all this kind, energy system, water system, these are infrastructure, visible structure. But this visible structure has to be redesigned based on resource efficiency or eco-efficiency. Invisible structure means market price and all these kind of things, technology, all these kind of things, especially market price. We are emphasizing market price. At the moment, the market prices of fossil fuel are so cheap that it does not stimulate low carbon, green growth investment. So these are the things. Then who can do that? To me, I think it should be the government. It cannot be left to the private sector. Private sector can play just a role given the basic rule, but the government can change the rules. It should be a government. Of course, it needs dialogue to mobilize the leadership with the private sector and engagement with civil society. But the political leadership, Korea is presenting a very interesting example. Next slide, please. So this is here, the basic concept of system change for me is about eco-efficiency and double dividend. These are the two issues. If we shift from brown economy to green economy, then we can have a double dividend. That is actually the key point. Why we should do that? The reason is we can have a double dividend. Double dividend means we can have higher economic growth and lower resource consumption and the decoupling. Yeah, next slide, please. And from our roadmap, we have identified 5 tracks. Number one is we have to shift from quantity to quality of growth and maximizing net growth. Net growth means that growth minus GDP loss. For example, traffic congestion, Korea is losing 2.8% of GDP from traffic congestion, but they are not counting it. It's a problem. So we have to count all those hidden GDP losses. Then we will have a net growth. So this is what I was emphasizing. Number two, we have to change the visible structure and invisible structure. Then we have to promote green business, and we have to formulate a low carbon development strategy. These are the 5 tracks we have suggested. Next slide, please. And for that, we have emphasized eco-tax reform as a tool for reforming market price reform. And I don't have time to go on this, but this is something that increasing carbon tax while reducing income or corporate or value-added tax. Then you can have a higher economic growth and a lower CO2 emission. And this is a tool for double dividend. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a basic concept, shifting tax base from labor to resource consumption. Next slide, please. Then many people are asking, is there any proof? Is there any proof for the double dividend? Then I'm saying that, unfortunately, there's a very limited, isolated, limited scope of examples, but there's no comprehensive proof. But rather, I'm saying that this is not a matter of proof. It is a matter of how to make it happen. So we'd rather ask how to make it happen. And then many of the answers are captured in our roadmap. We are trying to suggest these are the policy options to make double dividends to happen. Next slide, please. This is a graph from UNEP's Green Economy Report. As you can see from here, by even 2020 and 25, 2030, the green economic growth is higher than brown growth over there. So this is very good news. It is showing the double dividend. But actually, yesterday, Dr. Pachauri mentioned that if we take a climate action, then there will be a 3% of GDP loss.